When I mention the safe system approach, it is often seen as another buzzword and brushed off as something that is already being implemented. Unfortunately, many cities and states in the US keep designing and building dangerous roads and rely on educational programs to try and modify driver behaviors. Well, I have news for you. It isn't working. Traffic fatality rates in the US are higher than every country in the European Union by at least 50%. Sure, education is needed to train people to drive, but if we are to improve safety, we must stop blaming individuals for failures in the system and look to the structure of the system itself and how it determines driver behaviors. We must understand the foundation of the safe system approach if we are to move beyond a buzzword and have a meaningful impact within our cities. The safe system approach was adopted by the Federal Highway Administration and includes 6 principles that lay the foundation. This video will cover the 6 principles and hopefully provide an understanding of what they mean so that engineers, planners, elected officials, and the public can have meaningful conversations on how to improve road safety. The first principle is that death and serious injury is unacceptable. Though it would be nice to get rid of all crashes, the focus is to stop killing and seriously hurting people. Cars and property can be replaced. People and their quality of life cannot. There are many priorities in a system of transportation, and often traffic flow and chasing vehicle level of service takes precedence at the cost to safety. This is where we have to take a step back and ask ourselves, is human sacrifice, the tearing apart of families, friends, and loved ones, an acceptable part of a transportation system? If you believe it to be acceptable, then what is an acceptable amount of death and life-changing injuries? Is it okay to be losing our children? Are you okay the people you care about most being the sacrifice for mobility? Are we destined to play the Russian roulette of the roadway and hope it isn't our own loved one that is an unfortunate victim? We need to look beyond the numbers and statistics and remember to look at the people. Mobility must serve and support us all, not the other way around. We don't need to bow down to the almighty vehicular God that rules all in so many cities. In a safe system, mobility is a basic human right regardless of how one chooses to get around town, and 0 is the only acceptable number and the only acceptable goal. Creating a safe system is also not a fool's choice where we must choose between providing mobility or ensuring safety. It can ensure both and often enhance mobility by providing many safe travel options. The second principle is that humans make mistakes. It is inevitable that we will make mistakes as it is a defining characteristic that makes us human. There isn't a single one of us that can claim we have never made a mistake. Woohoo! We make mistakes both inadvertently or sometimes on purpose. Some mistakes can have bigger consequences than others. When I am at home and knock over a soda on the kitchen counter, the consequences are minimal and the mistake is very forgiving since I can just wipe it up and no one is hurt, though my beautiful artwork is ruined. This same misjudgment in one's mind when driving a car means someone could be killed. Forgiveness at higher speeds means providing space to maneuver, which is very common design language in the US and inappropriately used in all types of contexts. Forgiveness in complex environments means driving slow so someone can stop before hitting someone else. Or if they do crash, it is at a low speed with smaller impact forces. Restrictiveness in a high-speed context means limiting people from maneuvering in ways that cause dangerous conflicts. This means access limitations, center barriers or medians, separated bike paths, and other features. Restrictiveness in a complex environment means the street must traffic calm and physically prevent people from driving beyond a safe speed. Ultimately, it must make people driving feel as guests, especially in neighborhoods and city centers where streets serve as public spaces, not just for driving. Environments that only have people on foot or by bike have significantly less risk potential than those with cars. City centers really should look at pedestrianized areas with a network of car-free streets and plan primary roads to go around them. The Hague in the Netherlands has one of the best car-free street networks that I have seen. Not only did I feel safe traveling around the city center by foot and bike, it was an enjoyable place to spend time. If someone accidentally walks in front of me and I run into them while I'm walking, it may lead to embarrassment, but not a severe injury or fatality. Overall, a system that depends on complete compliance to the rules in order to ensure safety is a system destined to fail. We must not ignore this fact and understand how we anticipate human mistakes. The third principle is that humans are vulnerable. All of us are made of flesh and bones, and we can only tolerate so much physical impact before we are seriously injured or killed. Our bodies are vulnerable to kinetic forces in a crash. What variables create kinetic energy? Mass and motion. To illustrate vulnerabilities, I'll use these egg people.
Hey everybody!
If I drop an egg from a small height, it can tolerate the impact many times. If I drop an egg from a little higher, then sometimes it survives and sometimes not. If I drop an egg from a greater height, it will almost always break. Doesn't matter if I drop it from here or from the top of the Empire State Building, it will break either way since the tolerance has been exceeded. If I put an egg into a cup with some cushioning, it can withstand a little more impact. This is similar to someone driving a car. At a certain point, even with this added protection, the egg will break. If there is an egg that gets hit by the cup, then it can easily break, which simulates a car hitting a person walking or biking. In reality, the weight difference is much greater between a real car and a person. Doesn't matter if I drop the egg in California, Utah, or the Netherlands, its tolerance for impact is the same. Rather than an egg falling, the same idea applies to our bodily injury tolerances to different speeds and masses in a crash. Cars have a much greater kinetic energy than a human body. Fast-moving cars have even greater kinetic energy compared to a human body. To give an idea of how vulnerable a person is in a crash, a person walking getting hit by a car at 30 miles per hour is somewhere around 40% likely to be killed. This grows to about 80% likelihood of being killed when a car is going 40 miles per hour. Understanding these vulnerabilities will help us understand what safe speeds and safe roads look like. People outside of a car protected only by the design of the physical infrastructure and how it regulates the behaviors of drivers or removes drivers from the situation altogether. Street design must understand human vulnerabilities based on how people are getting around, conflict point types, and anticipate what mistakes may be made. An example is traffic calming a side street and establishing clear priority for people walking and biking so drivers are more cautious. Even this Land Rover driver was cautious and waited for these people to pass. And then of course floored it. Key is, when a vehicle is going slow enough, they can stop quickly and keep impact forces low or can prevent a crash altogether. The goal should be to prevent collisions with people outside of a car altogether, since hitting a person at slow speed can still lead to serious injuries or fatalities. Thanks, child-sized Barbie, for putting your life on the line for this demonstration. We can consider the hierarchy of controls and go beyond the basics of safe systems. When considering the hierarchy of controls, eliminating the largest threat can be a way of increasing safety in city and neighborhood centers, as well as limiting the number of conflict points along roadways. For those who think this is a way to take away everyone's cars, just hold your horses.
Woo!
You could still drive to a land use center, as is often possible in Dutch cities that utilize an underground parking area without having to drive through the center of a pedestrianized area. This scenario is great for making walkable areas and can be better for traffic issues as well. Understanding these vulnerabilities will help us understand what safe speeds and safe roads look like. The fourth principle is responsibility is shared. We need to understand what this really means. When crashes happen and people get hurt or killed, the individuals involved often get blamed. An example is when a person walking gets hit and killed by a car outside of a crosswalk, they get blamed for not crossing where a line of paint says they should. In a system prioritizing traffic flow and speed, many crosswalks and slower travel speeds are perceived as a detriment to the priority of chasing a level of service, which is the ultimate game of whack-a-mole. Bad traffic, haha, this strode will take care of you. Damn, you're back. It is true that people make mistakes that cause crashes. The fact that people make mistakes isn't going to change. Those who make mistakes on purpose need to be held accountable to the law, but this is different from accountability for the safety outcomes of a system. When we blame individuals for not following the rules, then there is no perceived reason to make changes to road design, speed, or other parts of the system. We need to remember the word system. The idea that structure determines behavior is a basic element of a system. If you believe that killing people for mobility is unacceptable, then the system must prioritize behaviors that lead to safer outcomes. An example of structure determining behavior is how I can set up chairs and make my daughter run past them. If I set the chairs just to the sides and have her run past, she can go straight and fast. If I set them up where she cannot run straight through, then she must slow down and go around them. Setting up the chairs is a causal force in the structure of this small system and affects my daughter's behaviors. A causal force in a transportation system can be how the design of the large turn radii allows for higher speed turns, compared to this raised side crossing which makes drivers slow down. These are located on the same road, but each result in different behaviors. Asking people to pretty please slow down when turning isn't going to be effective when the design language encourages higher speed turns. When a system is structured, we must understand typical human behaviors and really pay attention to the context of an area when planning and designing roads. An example is here in West Valley, Utah along 3500 South, which is currently a multi-lane stroad with a BRT line in the center. There are businesses and homes nearby on both sides of the road. This creates demand for people to want to cross the street in many locations, which you can see all the possible origins and destinations along this one short section of road. Imagine you are here walking out of your neighborhood. You come up to the stroad and see the restaurant directly on the other side just calling your name. Would you walk to the crosswalk that is nearly a quarter mile down the road? Or do you wait for a break in traffic and go for it? Not everyone will go to the traffic light, and many will go for it. The system here requires someone to walk nearly a half a mile to simply cross the street. It is annoying enough to walk that much farther for an able person such as myself, but what about making your grandma walking that much farther? Or someone using a mobility device? When people walk, they typically take the most direct route possible. Realistically though, this inconvenient route is going to convince most people to hop in a car and drive to their destination, thus contributing to the traffic this stroad is trying so hard to address. The root issue here is the road function and design does not match the land use context. Don't let the design and function of a street ignore typical human behavior. Match the street to the context. Putting a traffic-moving road through a town center is like parking your car in the living room. It disrupts the function of a people-oriented place. Addressing context can mean circulating roads around land use centers rather than taking all this vehicle traffic right through, just as the suburb of Houten in the Netherlands has done with their ring road system. We absolutely need to understand how the design and function of the system affects people's behaviors and travel patterns. This is why designers, planners, engineers, elected officials, maintenance staff, first responders, and even auto manufacturers who structure the system must be held accountable to prevent safety failures. Accountability means one must learn their role in creating a safe transportation system and have a growth mindset to continually learn to improve the system. Currently, we are getting larger and more dangerous vehicles, which is taking steps backwards. If someone consciously doesn't care to improve the safety of the system, then they should be removed from a position that structures the system. To reference the book Good to Great, we need the right people on the bus. Once we have the people who truly want to help, then they can be trained to help see success. The general public can help by getting involved with local conversations about planning and street design. Learn as much as you can about how your city plans, then meet with staff and elected officials, and advocate for safe systems in a way that appeals to the values of the community. I know in my community, an important part of the vision is for the city to be family friendly. The fifth principle is safety must be proactive. Systems are designed to produce a desired outcome. A faulty system is one that fails to produce the desired outcome. If a system is designed such that it prioritizes vehicle traffic and speeds, then our current system is largely producing those outcomes. Congestion and travel delay would be a fault in the system and something that designers of our system keep trying to fix, but ultimately will fail to do so in the long term. This is a topic aside from the purpose of this video. If safety is a priority, then people getting killed or seriously injured is a major system failure. We need to address faults in the system before failures happen. If we want an outcome of the system to be safety, then do we wait around until someone dies to make it a safety improvement? Or do we try to understand what the risk potential is of a road based on speed, conflicts, context, and road function, and do the best we can to make it safe from the start? I believe we can't keep twiddling our thumbs until our loved ones are needlessly sacrificed. There are so many roads in the US and places around the world that are ignorant to risk potential and how to reduce it. Collector and arterial roads all over combine high speeds with many conflict points that expose human vulnerabilities, both for those inside and especially outside of a car. We must understand risk potential and that our world is always changing, which means we must stay diligent and constantly monitor risk potential, demographics, and other factors. Risk potential means the greater the kinetic energy at a conflict point, the more likely someone will get hurt or killed when someone makes a mistake. Just because something hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it's safe. Reacting to deadly crashes will be like plugging holes in a boat with only your fingers. We need a proper repair of all the holes in a boat if we are to ensure it will successfully float. The sixth and final principle is redundancy is crucial. A successful system is one that can sustainably provide the desired outcome without failure. This is why the Dutch called their safety policy sustainable safety. Since a system of transportation is complicated and involves the element of human behavior, it must be adaptable. In order to be adaptable, the system needs buffers. A 2015 Strong Towns article about efficiency states that efficiency is what you strive for when you're doing things that are bad and you want to do them less bad. Adaptability is about doing things better. Efficiently moving traffic means you are trying to minimize the bad travel delay. Adaptively ensuring safety means there is more than one minimal safeguard. If the only safeguard in place is that people must follow the rules of the road to ensure safety, then we know it will fail since humans make mistakes. It is similar to ensuring the safety of those flying aircraft. A plane has redundant systems in place in case of an emergency or failure of the primary system. We could call it an inefficient use of resources, but it is critical that an aircraft be structured so that it is adaptable to prevent a crash. Just don't be like Boeing and start prioritizing profits over quality and safety. The transportation system needs to be redundant just like an aircraft in order to reduce risks. These redundancies can be visualized with the Swiss cheese model. A single slice of cheese will block some lines from getting through, but it is fairly easy for some to get through the holes. Every time a line gets through a hole, it is a fatality and a failure of the system. When we have multiple slices in place, it will better ensure the outcome we want from the system. These redundant layers are the 5 elements of the safe system approach, which will need to be covered in separate videos. Stay tuned and thanks for joining me to learn about the 6 principles of the safe system approach.